Well, FC Cincinnati continue to prove themselves as road warriors, and this time they did it in D.C. off the boot of Dado Valenzuela in a strong defensive performance that kept Benteke and his home side of D.C. United out of the back of the net. And in the end, it was FC Cincinnati that came away from the capital city with all 3 points. Welcome to episode 414 of Cincinnati Soccer Talk, and we obviously still are having some technical issues, even 414 episodes into this show. You may not hear that if you are listening later in the week, but if you're watching live, you get all the bonus material like that. We've got a great show for you tonight with a great cast, and I'm going to kick it off by tossing it to Nathan Forstoffel. Nathan, how you doing, man? Welcome back.
I'm doing well. We are loving life, and wish I was down in DC this weekend. I was in DC for work a week ago. Wish that trip was this week so I would have had the chance to go to Audi Field. But nevertheless, still here Monday night to talk about it, and good to see you, Brian.
Yeah, always good to have you, man. Jose, how are you? Welcome back.
I am doing great. Yeah, thank you. Glad to be here. We were racing earlier today trying to get the lawn mowed before we got drenched. So that was a bit of a race, but we won. And then when you guys asked me to be on the show, I thought, well, I haven't prepared anything, so I better start working on this pretty quick. But yeah. I'm always glad to be here, guys, in any way I can help.
Yeah, Jose filling in at the last minute, literally the 11th hour tonight for us. So thanks for your willingness to jump in here. And yes, Rupesh, I am messing up already. How about that? I love it. Maybe you were here at the beginning of the last couple shows. It's been a ride, these intros. So yeah. Anyway, we got a newcomer to the show tonight, Jacob Holton. Welcome to Cincinnati Soccer Talk. I know you've been doing some writing and some things like that for us, but first time on the podcast. Welcome aboard.
It's good to be here. I was in DC. It was cold. It was raining. Originally, we were at the top of the stadium. We moved down to the supporter section at halftime, and that was a good move. And we had a good time at full time, and it was nice to see the boys win on the road. Away days are always the best.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I wanted you to be on the show tonight, because I know you were there live and would love to get some perspective as the show goes. The things we talk about, what did it look like live on the field? What was the fan experience like in DC? Jose spent some time in Nashville together at the game there, and the fan experience was pretty phenomenal from FCC fans who traveled there, and I'm curious how it was in DC. So we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. I do want to shout out a couple people here at the top of the show. My name is Brian Biedenbach, by the way, hosting Cincinnati Soccer Talk this season. I would shout out, first of all, to Gerardo in group sales at FC Cincinnati. So, Gerardo, if you are listening, thank you so much for your help today. I'm bringing my son's soccer team to the Blue Chip. Well, I'm not bringing them. I'm taking him to play with his team in the Blue Chip Showcase here in a couple weeks in Cincinnati, and we're going to make our way to TQL Stadium for the Sporting Kansas City match. So he helped us out get some tickets all together today. So fantastic there. And if you're listening, I made an announcement that I'm starting a similar podcast following soccer in the Fort Wayne area called Fort Wayne Footy. That means nothing to the Cincinnati crowd, I understand, but if you're listening from Fort Wayne, would love to see you show up in the comments tonight. I invited you to join us just to see what this is all about, what this could be in Fort Wayne. So if you're listening, let us know. Drop a comment in the comments in the chat there. Would love to hear from you. But hey, guys, before we get into the game, you mentioned the rain, you mentioned the cold. Spring storms can be a stressful time for homeowners, and if you need any help with sump pumps or yard drainage, give Apollo Home a call. They offer a free consultation to all CST listeners. Give them a call, send them a text, or book online at apollohome.com. All right, gentlemen, FC Cincinnati traveled to the capital city. We talked about that in the intro to play DC United, who has been struggling of late. I think this is their fourth loss in a row and Cincinnati's third win in a row. So our teams are trending in opposite directions right now. Dado Valenzuela scores his first goal of the season in his first start in the 28th minute. We'll talk about that and more, but I want to get into our best and worst before we get too deep into the match. If you're listening, if you're watching live, you saw the game, drop your best and worst in the chat. We'll throw some up here on the screen here soon. Jose, let's start with you. Best and worst.
I think the defensive line again was superb. Yes, there were a few glitches, but when you have so many pieces coming and going, be expected, but they did a great job there. My worst is the lack second half. I don't know what happened. They just let DC into the game, and I know we'll talk about both aspects, but so those are my best and worst: the D line, and then the laxness in the second half.
Yeah, I can't argue too much with those. Those are good takes. Nathan, best and worst.
Yeah, I mean, my best, I know you alluded to it at the top of the show here, but Dado looked absolutely incredible, right? It was probably his best game in orange and blue. His goal was a thing of beauty. He did a lot of things off the ball that's to love. We'll get into that more later. And my worst is FCC 2. The young Garys, they're not playing in the third round of the U.S. Open Cup tomorrow. I was looking at that schedule, looking forward, and it was a noticeable hole. Unfortunately, not down at NKU Stadium. Still probably tuned in for some other games, but was hoping to see him advance a little bit farther, get some more tournament experience, and make a push for hardware. So that's definitely feeling the weight of that this week.
Yeah, no doubt. Good shout to the FCC2 fans and FCC2 squad there. Jacob, best and worst.
The best was the amount of pressure that the midfield and the front line put on DC's back line in that first half, especially that first 25 minutes. I mean, they forced a lot of turnovers, a lot of bad passes. They almost forced an own goal. That was awesome. Well done by the DC keeper to keep it out. My worst the worst was obviously where all that went in the second half. It just totally disappeared. They fell into themselves and they were just defending for 45 straight minutes, and it was it was nerve-wracking.
Yeah, that own goal was a shocker. It flashed back to Miazga last season, putting it right, in front of TQL Stadium, putting it right past Celentano. DC's keeper had the wherewithal to get there quickly, but man, I saw that ball ricocheting off the post and coming right back at him. He was lucky to miss and get it out of bounds. So all right, we got Rupesh. His best and worst. Best was seeing Matt Miazga back on the field. His worst, so we're still struggling on the offensive end. You guys have talked about that. We will get deeper into that later in the show. So I do think that is of concern a little bit, and I'll tell you why I'm not as concerned this week as I was last week, and maybe you have some different takes on that. David Moore says his best was Haglund in all caps with 3 or 4 exclamation points there about Nick Haglund. We'll talk about him. And then his worst is the injuries that kept guys like Kubo and Evander and others off the pitch this week. So, yeah, injuries definitely are a concern. We saw that last year with Miazga and Haglund going out. Like, maybe these aren't the guys you want to see not even on the bench, as a guy like Evander and a guy like Kubo that are just missing the matches because of injuries. I'll say this. For my best, there's a lot of things I could have picked out. I went with the fact that there were bright spots in this game, really, really bright spots in this game, even amidst a pretty, lackluster win. We talked about the lack of creativity in the front, but I saw in crucial moments, I'm picking up on that terminology. I heard my son's coach yelling, "Crucial moments, boys, crucial moments," right? And I'm seeing guys recognize those crucial moments on the pitch with FCC this last week. Dado, his awareness, when Benteke put pressure, that goal came from Denke's pressure, right? And Dado recognized it, pushed up. We'll talk about that. Orishano, maybe he heard me. I don't know. He crossed the ball several times with his right foot, and I haven't seen him do that all season. So one, who knows what would have happened? It deflected off a defender for a corner, and one was pretty dangerous, just past the head of Benteke. So, so there were those bright moments that I want to talk more about as we get into the show. My worst, I'll say this: Celentano. Not that he was my worst, but the fact that he didn't make team of the match day was my worst, because that guy put in a performance that I think is pretty underrated this week. We talked about, how Cincinnati fell in on themselves. Jacob, you said it that way in the second half. And if it weren't for Celentano getting his hands and his feet on a couple balls, that game could have totally gotten away from Cincinnati this week. So my worst is that he didn't get the recognition I felt he deserved for that game. So good shouts there, best and worst. I want to talk a little bit more about each of those, but I want to wrap it around Pat Noonan's press conference after the match. He made a few comments that I want to just kind of toss out to the crowd here and get your feedback. I don't have the clips to share, but I'll just quote what he said. If you're interested, I'm sure you can find it and see what he exactly said, so I don't get it out of context here. But he says he gives credit to the entire unit, everybody on the field, all 11 defensively. He said they lacked creativity moving forward, lacked creativity in the attack, but defensively as a unit, they were solid. How did you guys feel about? Was he right on there, or was it just the back line that was keeping the ball out and it just kept getting away from the forwards?
I think that in the second half, especially, the entire team was defending. I apologize, Jacob or Nathan. You said for 45 minutes we were defending, but it was the whole team defending. It was nerve-wracking, yes. I expect at any moment the tying goal is going to happen. There's too many corners, too many direct kicks, too many plays that are getting away from us. So I think the entire team had to play, for whatever reasons, defense in that second half. So I think he's right in crediting them. But, it's kind of a weird thing to credit because, okay, your entire team was defending, but why?
Yeah, no doubt. But I do think you're right on there that Benteke was dropping in. He was getting pressure on guys. Orshana was getting his foot on a couple balls. Not the defender that you want maybe a wing back to be or need him to be at times. But the team was pulling back together, and they were pressing when they needed to together. So I think he was right on in that comment. Any other feedback, Nathan?
Yeah, no, definitely don't forget to, as a part of that equation and it feels like in the conversations on Twitter and online, this is kind of getting missed. It looks like we just had a comment that's similar about it, but Anunga, right, and Pavel Buka, if you look at their heat maps for today, they were all over the pitch.
Yes.
That effort, I think, has been understated. And I think them tracking back helped a lot of the defensive end. I agree with Jose. Too many free kicks, too many corners, of course, right? But as you said, Celentano had a few moments where he was able to stand on his head. And also, one of the things, I didn't see the press conference, but I'd be interested to see if he made any comments about Robinson. Robinson has been all across the back line, and he had a really nice opportunity where he tracked back and he caught Benteke. He beat Benteke to the ball to force it out for a corner in a pretty dangerous situation. It's probably one of the most dangerous looks that Benteke had all night.
Yeah.
But he looked really comfortable on the right. And then when Matt came in, he looked pretty comfortable on the left. A credit specifically to the back line, but Jose's point's very fair that, when everybody's defending for a half, it's an interesting credit for sure.
Yeah. It felt like Robinson said, "Hey, I'm going to give you a 5-yard head start. And I'm going to see if you can beat me." And he smoked him. Like he came from deep.
He did
to beat him on that as a 72nd minute. So that was a game saver. That run that he
for
made.
The Gold Cup, right? He's trying to get looks. Yeah.
I'll be honest, I have not enjoyed, or I've not enjoyed is not the right word, but I don't think the center back is Robinson's best position. And so when he shifted to the right, I thought he looked really, really good. And so I've been kind of, I didn't think he's sneaky fast. I don't think he looks that fast when he starts in that, deep center back position, but he proved his speed on that one play, and I will never doubt him again in that speed. So I think we may have lost Jacob here for a moment, but we'll continue to roll. That was one thing. That was another thing that Noonan said. The second quote he came up regarding Nick Hagglund, he said it's one of his best performances in a Cincinnati jersey that he's seen him play. And my question is, I absolutely agree. Number one, that Hagglund played a fantastic match, one of the best I've seen him play. My question, though, is was that a risk that Noonan took that paid off in the end, or was that a calculated move because he knows the quality of Benteke and he wanted a guy like Hagglund instead of a guy like Robinson for whatever reason on it? He saw something. Did he see something there? Or was that a risk that paid off?
I think it was a calculated risk, if you will, because if you look at Hagglund's heat map from the previous game, it looks incredibly similar to Saturday's game as well. And that doesn't mean much if you don't compare the two players he was against. But I think what Noonan might have said, this guy, Benteke, he's dangerous in these areas. Nick seems to be functioning well within these areas, so I'm going to put him in here. It's a bit of a calculated risk. but he clamped him down. I mean, he clamped him down. Yeah, I think Benteke had a couple of opportunities there where he seemed to shake his mark, but overall, I think that calculated risk paid off because he saw something in the New England game that he said, I think we can use that pattern of play against this guy, against Benteke.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my take.
And so this is Hagelin's second full game back. He played a full 90 the week before. And so, Nathan, did you expect, number one, Hagelin to start in the middle and to go another full 90 at that position against Benteke, coming off, his first full games back from injury?
Yeah, I wasn't expecting him to go a full 90, but also that's center backs, a place of need right now, right? And as we're trying to nurse, Miazga back into the position and get him reacclimated, I wasn't expecting him to go a full 90, but he played really, really well. Feels good too. He's one of those feel good players too, right? As a
Sure.
hometown guy, but I was not expecting that kind of performance against Benteke, just because I think it's unreasonable to expect that of 98% of center backs in the league. And funny enough, you were talking about sneaky speed. There even was one situation where he beat him to the edge of the 18, and he was able to send it out on the near side touchline. And so he had a few bursts in there. I think you could kind of tell in the second half that there was a little bit of fatigue. But his first half was pretty brilliant, even up through the first 50 or 60 minutes. He played well all game. That's not a critique, but you could kind of tell that there was a little bit of wear on the tread on the tires getting in the later part of the game. But he played fantastic. You can't ask for a better performance out of a guy, especially so soon from coming back.
Yeah. Jacob, is your mic working here?
Yeah, we're good. Everything's
awesome.
good. I couldn't hear anybody for a minute.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back. Glad you got it working, because I got a key question for you, right? As I'm watching on TV, I'm watching the broadcast, and I'm seeing Nick Hagelin grab Benteke and pull him back. Not once, not twice. Once riding him to the ground and getting no calls. What was the feeling in the stadium in those moments as a visiting fan watching your center back pull down one of the best players in the MLS and not get a call, and hear people just were they griping, complaining, screaming?
The DC fans were certainly calling for something. I found that to be so funny, the whole thing, because they're wrestling with each other, and it looks like after they're hugging each other, it looks like Benteke pulls him down after Hagelin's trying to pull. It was really comical.
Yeah. The one play that Benteke got through that was really, really dangerous. It was a header that popped up over Hagelin. Hagelin struggled to recover, grabbed him around the waist, pulled him back. He was a little off balance. That happens a lot in these games. Was there anything in that, not to speculate on the ref's call or no call or whatever, it was when you saw that live, when you saw that live, was there anything in there that you thought, oh shoot, that should have been called?
Yeah, it was a close one. And from where we were, it's tough, but like I was nervous. I was like, man, it's about to be bad, and it wasn't called. And hey, they're not going to call it. They're not going to call it. I'm not going to argue with the refs.
Right.
Well, once in a while, those bad calls from the MLS refs have to go our way, right?
I mean, look,
it's rare. It's rare. Let's be honest.
Yeah. But hey, once in a while.
Everyone's got their feelings on the pro refs, and I've got my feelings about the pro refs, and it's just like it's really a coin flip with them sometimes. You never know which way it's going to go.
Yeah. Well, it's Miazga's the guy that's usually that guy, right, in the middle back that's causing, doing his trash talking, grabbing guys, throwing guys down, getting in their face, yelling, screaming at them. Not that Hagelin was doing that, but he was using his body, he was using his hands, he was dragging guys down. It was good to see the physicality out of Hagelin. He's not just chasing guys down and bodying them up. He's actually, wrestling a guy like Benteke that usually gets the best of a center back with his height and his strength. And Nick Hagelin got the best of him this week, which is fantastic. But speaking of Matt Miazga, we saw his return for the first time since his injury in San Jose last summer. He gets in the 83rd minute. You see him step up to the line to sub in. Excited to see him back. What surprised me is he went in at the right center back and he didn't shift Haglund over. Noonan, I think, said Haglund's hanging, let him go, and let him control that back line. What did you think when Miazga came in? Because we talked about it a little bit in the best and worst, the energy maybe that he brought. What did you think of his performance in those last 8 to 10 minutes?
I mean, I think we saw the old Matt. Now, obviously, he's probably coming back in little by little. He's probably not going to be 100% fit. But the energy level, the intensity of the team changed dramatically when he came on the field. I mean, it was noticeable on TV. I don't know, Jacob, how you saw it over in DC. But on TV, it just seemed to be a complete shift from that siege mentality to when, okay, we're going to grab this game now, we're going to close this out, which to me again shows that he is the leader of this team right now.
So in the second half, we were right down by where they were warming up, and it was the same 4 guys the entire time. It was Powell, it was Smith, it was Miazga, and I think it was I can't remember who the other guy was, but like, you could see how intense Matt Miazga was. At one point during all of that chaos, all the corner kicks, Matt was shouting instructions from the sideline at the center backs. He did bring a different presence. I thought he was a little shaky in his first couple minutes. I think he had a giveaway at one point. There were some awry passes, which is, you're expecting that from someone who's been out for so long. But yeah, obviously he brings a certain level of leadership and commandment of that back line that's gonna stabilize a really rocky situation.
Well, and Jacob, to your first point too, I mean, he finds ways to be involved even when he's off the pitch, right? And you love to see that out of a leader. I mean, he even looked like on Dado's goal, right? He was in the huddle there with him while he was still in his warm-ups, celebrating with him there on the goal line extended, right? And I know he sometimes gets painted for a villain, with his antics. I know with the national team and here, especially in the playoffs and various things like that. But his leadership and his intensity, they're crucial for this locker room, right? And for our play on the pitch. And I don't think anybody can deny that, right? No. You're right. I mean, he did have the one giveaway and those things, but I loved his attempt to connect with Benteke over the top in the second half.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That was great.
Yeah. No, try to just give it a try, right? Try to get on the highlight reel on your first time back. So I love it, right? And you can tell that he commands presence when you're on the field too. When you see our old friend Dom Baji in his cameo came on, that was the first person that Dom Baji went to go over and talk to was Miazga, and he threw up a few different gestures and various things like that. Matt was talking to him for a little bit. But he commands the respect of everyone on the pitch, not even necessarily within our locker room, but even getting in the other team's heads or whatever that looks like.
Yeah. My thought when I saw Miazga come out, I do think he looked a little shaky. Again, that is to be expected. Number one, because he's returning from almost a year off since his injury and his surgery, that again the rehab was a little bit longer than they anticipated, and so maybe there is some mental getting his head back in the game, and past an injury like that's really difficult. But he's also playing a little out of position. He's normally anchoring that center back and not playing that higher up the field right center back position, so he was a little bit out of position. My first thought was, this back line looks good. Like suddenly there was something comfortable to me about it with those two guys, Nick and Matt, back from injury, and Robinson out there at the left center back position. I just thought this is the stout defense that we've been looking for. No offense to Flores. I thought he played great. He's playing some daggers, long balls to the corner, to guys on the run. I think he's probably right now our best long ball center back, that he's hitting guys on the run. And I think he's doing really well. He brings energy. Pat Noonan trusts him. We talked last week about, he was in the center back position for a match or two, just kind of running that as a U22 player. Like, Noonan's got a lot of trust in this kid, but there's something about Miazga's leadership that changed. And even as a viewer, I just thought, okay, this looks really strong now. Yeah. And so I'm excited to see those two with Matt and Nick back in the lineup back there. Things did change. We only saw 8 to 10 minutes of it. We'll see Matt probably work in a half here soon and then up to a full 90 real soon, which we'll be really excited to see. And if Nick keeps it this level of play, this will be pretty fantastic of a center back room. Guys, I want to let's talk a little bit about the numbers, the stats that we saw. And we've been using SofaScore a little bit just to look at some of the stats. And so that's what this is based on. Wanted to look at some of the numbers that really stood out to us. We dig into, we're missing coach this week, talking about the tactics and what he saw on the pitch and who moved here and whatnot. We'll talk about a little bit of that, but I think the stats matter. And there were some surprising things that stood out to me. Jacob, I want to toss it to you. When you looked at the stats here on SofaScore, if you're interested at sofascore.com, look for FC Cincinnati and you can see each of their match stats and possession and shots and big chances created and all that stuff. Jacob, what stood out to you from the stats that you looked at?
So the very first thing I wanted to look at was obviously FC Cincinnati really had them under their thumb the entire first half. They were forcing them into a lot of turnovers and almost forced that own goal that we talked about earlier. They scored the goal with Dado. It was just really excellent to see them kind of command the ball and kind of play their style and play how they wanted to play. And then it was so stark in the second half. I was like, how much did that change? So in the first half, DC United had 44% of the ball. Under 50%. That's excellent. Cincinnati controlled the game. They did exactly what they wanted to do. Obviously didn't take all their chances. But then in the second half, it jumped up and DC had 71% possession. And that's huge. Like you do not see that kind of shift from 44 to 71 very often, and I think that really puts into light how much under the gun that they were the entire second half. And the other thing that I wanted to look at was just how well statistically Nick Hagglund did. He led FC Cincinnati by a wide margin in clearances with 16, and he also had 6 headed duels won, and the only one that beat him out was Miles Robinson with 7.
And he was matched up with, as we mentioned, Benteke the whole game. So to win 6 aerial duels against a guy that, if you look, Benteke was taller than him. He got the header down. That one header, the chance he had that just went over because it bounced off of Nick's head because he headed it down, right? And for Nick to win that many over a guy like Benteke was pretty phenomenal. Yeah. One of the things that I saw, I'll just jump in quick and pass it to you guys, that I looked at. It's similar to a heat map, right? It's just the areas of highest concentration of play. Like, where did each team have the ball the most? And for Cincinnati, it was the center back, like the defensive third right in the middle is where Cincinnati played mostly with the ball, which was a little concerning to me. With Nick Hagglund there in the middle, he's not we talked about, he's not the best passer on the team with the highest passing percentage. But we went back there a lot. Ball was at Celentano's feet. Ball was passed around the back a lot, according to this map, right? So, and then the second area of highest concentration was on the right in the middle third of the field. So right about midfield on the right side, which is who plays, right? Luca Orshano and DeAndre Yedlin. Yedlin especially likes to get in that spot and regress the ball instead of progress the ball. And so if you look at that, there was very little time Cincinnati spent in the attacking third, which again gives credence to Pat Noonan's comments in his press conference about the lack of creativity. We could get it up there. We couldn't do anything with it once we got there. So Cincinnati looks to be playing in the middle and the right side of the pitch, which we've talked about. There's no Lucas Engel's not getting forward a whole lot. He did have a nice shot, but he's not getting forward a whole lot on that left flank. And compare that with DC, who had the ball primarily in the middle third of the field on both sides. So they're playing both sides, getting in the attacking third a little bit more often with a guy like Benteke and whatnot, getting in their attacking third, which is why we had to play out of that back a lot. So the pressure was on us. I'm curious if they didn't break it down by half, but I'm curious how that that map would have changed from first half to second half, according to the possession numbers that you shared, Jacob. So that was the thing that stood out to me. I'd like to see Cincinnati in the attacking third a little bit more, and maybe down that left channel a little bit more often.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is that, okay, yeah, we got Orellano, we have Yedlin on the right side. It's pretty strong. But if they shut us down there, then the left is not an option. Again, qualifying that with the fact that we don't have a full roster yet. They haven't played together, and we'll talk more about this later in the show. But it is concerning that, well, that left side is still an issue.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Jose or Nathan, anything as you looked at SofaScore, looked at the stats, anything jump out at you that was surprising or concerning?
The only not actually surprising in that FCC seems to be getting more shots on frame now. It's we've always complained, get some shots on frame, please. And the stats bear that out. DC, I think, only had like 2 shots on frame. So, that's again, credit to the team, that really good defensive effort. And FCC seems to be getting more and more shots on frame. Now, unfortunately, a lot of those are not coming from, well, maybe not one, from Benteke, but we'll talk about that later as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, one of the things that I was pulling out too from the statistics is, I mean, the 4 corner kicks compared to the 10, right? I mean, you're looking at 16 free kicks for DC, 8 for us, right? And that's a problem for a couple of things, right? I mean, historically, right, and continue as we go and reintegrating the back line and a lot of you talk about us defending the whole time. You're being put underneath a barrage of balls coming in from DC from dangerous positions, right? High percentage balls. Where also the other thing too is from a set piece standpoint, Vander's kind of been our specialist this year. It really has been our best offense, right? Vander from set pieces. And so when you're looking at this, especially when we're talking about Orellano, while Vander's out, maybe giving him an opportunity to kind of get into the groove from set pieces, giving him a chance. Even when he was here with Lucho, sometimes he could pry the ball away from Lucho every once in a while and get a free kick himself, and he had some success in that area.
Yeah, he did.
And so maybe this is an opportunity for him while Vander's out. If we could just earn a few more of those, we're getting doubled up. In some cases from those positions. So that was a little interesting to see that. And the first half, I mean, after you watch the first half, you never would have expected that you would end up 42% possession on the game. That was a little bit of a startling stat, but we've definitely already touched on that before. That definitely was concerning for sure.
Yeah. And Jacob, you didn't get the pleasure of listening to the commentator when Orellano got taken down, takes his free kick. I don't know if you guys caught this. I had to rewind it today and listen. He hits the ball to the far post. It looks like it's going in the corner, and he goes, Orellano! No.
No, I missed that.
Yeah, he was so excited, and then it didn't pan out. So guys, I think it's interesting. Stats don't tell the whole story, but I do think they tell part of the story, and they're interesting to look at post game. And they are things like Jose, you mentioned, maybe Pat Noonan looked at some of these stats and went, Hagelin's really performing well in this space, and we need a guy that's going to perform well that we can trust against a guy like Benteke. So it's interesting to look at those stats, talk about them. They don't tell the whole story. I want to jump into some player analysis now that maybe beyond the stats. What did we see in some of these players? Starting with some matchups here. So Kevin Benteke against the back line of DC United. Now, DC, a little bit of backstory. DC has been giving up a lot of goals. They've coming into this match, they lost 3 in a row. We beat them. This was their 4th match in a row, 4th loss in a row. But they switched out all 3 of their center backs for this match. Took them out, put 3 new starters in. So a guy like Kevin Benteke is going up against 3 guys who haven't started at least together across the back line for DC. What did you see in Kevin Benteke? Because he's been getting a little bit of criticism from Cincinnati fans lately, and we're getting to that point in the season, Jose, where you said if we're still having this conversation at the end of April, we're mid-April and we're still having some of this conversation. Benteke versus the 3 center backs from DC. How was that matchup for you?
Well, again, I go back to what I've been saying. I'm sounding like a broken record. For those of you that are not old enough, you probably don't know what I'm talking about. But
That's the thing you scratch, right? Like a DJ.
yeah, that one.
People, our audience may not even know that either.
Yeah. What the heck is that? What's he talking about? um, but again, he's just not getting the help he needs, and the tactics probably also need to change. I mean, it was mentioned here. He's a target guy, and we know that when he gets the ball, he does protect it well. But he's not getting help from the wings. Midfield still, one goes and it comes. You have Ariano, Evander sometimes. So all of that, I think, is playing into the fact that even against 3 new center backs in terms of the tactics of DC, you still have a guy that's kind of isolated up there. Now, the pressure may be building on him, and we talked about this at the beginning of the season. If we get into April, and I've said this too, and he's not scoring, he's probably going to start feeling the pressure. I got to score. And I think that would be the worst thing for him to feel at the moment, because he's got to put things in perspective too. I don't have all the starting lineups that I was supposed to have. It's been coming and going. We haven't gelled, but I still stick to this. Yes, it's April 14th. We're mid-April. If in 2 weeks we're still having this discussion, then maybe we should start worrying.
Yeah. Nathan, I know we talked a little bit beforehand, and I agree about the pressure that he was getting forward. What are you seeing out of Kevin Benteke moving forward? Maybe he's not scoring goals, but are you seeing some good things out of him?
Sure. Yeah. No, I'm going to preface this comment and conversation with, I know I've been giving him, I've been a little harsh on Benteke on recent shows here. However, and I still hold to the fact that if you're a striker, you are paid to score goals, right? Like that's why you're a huge transfer. And I don't think that we can get around that. And maybe that is built in the back of his mind. Maybe he's not, right? I'm not in his head. However, I saw really good pressure from him on Saturday, right? He was going into spaces. I saw him working his way into the channel, right? I mean, he almost got caught Barraza off guard, right? With forcing that back pass, right? And he's putting himself in the position to succeed. And that's the kind of progression that we want to see, right? I think Rupesh's comment here is very fair, right? He doesn't have a whole lot of help, and especially for a guy that profiles, as Jose said, like a target striker, right? He's a big frame kind of guy. He's tall, right? And in the box, right? In the opportunities we were talking about a little bit before the show against Motagua and earlier on in the season, we're getting the ball to his head, getting in his feet in the 18 in dangerous areas, right? And the one that I'm particularly thinking about in this game was when when Santos was coming down on the left side and crossing it in for him. But I'm encouraged by his performance this week. I started to see a little bit more of that killer instinct on the press, right? I mean, we're so close to forcing that own goal. And I think that it's coming for him. It will come for him as long as he continues to do the right things off the ball. And it'll come. It'll come. I'm willing to preach patience for a little bit longer. But yeah, especially as we're starting, I know we'll talk about this a little bit more with Dado, but if we can get another guy up front that's pulling pressure off him, that's going to help open up play for him. And we'll see that hopefully here in the future.
Yeah. Nathan, that's a good transition because I wanted to get to Dado a little bit, but while we're here talking about Benteke, I mentioned in my best, there were bright spots in this game that Benteke did not put the ball in the back of the net, but the pressure that you talked about was one of the things that I noticed. He pressured the keeper. He pressured the center backs. Dado's goal was a goal because of Benteke's pressure, right? So Flores puts a long ball up. Coach talked about this last week out of the 4-4-2 and sending the long balls up and getting the bodies up there. They didn't play 4-4-2 this week, but they did get the long ball up there, get the guys forward in the first half at least to put pressure on the ball. So he misses Benteke. The center back beats him there. Benteke puts pressure on him, forces a turnover because Dado recognized that Benteke was pressing, right? And Dado steps into space. If Dado doesn't step into the space, DC's going back the other way because there's a guy right behind him. He steps in front of him, takes the ball, beats the next guy, and throws him like a skinny guy like Dado, throws a center back straight to the ground, which was awesome. And then beats 4 more in the 18, does it himself. but it came as a result of the pressure that Benteke put on that right center back. So he's getting pressure. I talked about crucial moments earlier, and it seems that he's recognizing those crucial moments. When do I press? Which way do I pressure? Because where's the rest of my team? Where are they coming from? So there were bright spots there. The pressure he's getting, and again, I think to me it's about partnerships on the pitch, and I liked what I saw with him and Dado. Not necessarily the way the two linked up, but the way Dado followed Benteke. Meaning, if you watch, especially the second half, early in the second half, I was watching it, a little bit the first half too. He had his eyes on Benteke the whole time. He's watching the ball coming down, but he has his eyes on Benteke, and where Benteke vacates space and makes a run, he runs into, and we saw Orishano dink a ball over the top and almost hit him. It didn't quite get there, but the partnerships are beginning to develop. And a guy like Dado, my prediction preseason was two things. Chicago was going to be a big rival this year, and this was going to be a breakout season for Dado Valenzuela. I really, really liked what I saw in him, and maybe it's come from sitting on the bench and watching how these guys play and recognizing the movements that he sees. Like, there's a lot to learn sitting on the bench and watching. He plays with them in training, I understand. I really liked what I saw from him in this match. What did you guys see from Dado that maybe you didn't expect?
The coolest... Sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
The coolest thing that I saw from Dado Valenzuela that I hadn't really seen part of his game yet was the strength on the ball. You saw it in the goal where he shoves that guy off. I mean, we've never seen that. He's always, I've always think of, like, man, you got to get him into some open space and let him run at some defenders. I've never seen him shove a guy off like that, and that was awesome. And then the cut back to beat two center backs and then put it past the keeper. I mean, that's some real skill, and we knew he had that technical ability, but like, to put all of it together was just awesome to see live.
Yeah,
that's a great point.
Yeah, and again, the runs he's recognizing. If I remember correctly, the ball is dinked around on the right side. He makes a diagonal run. Orishano chips it over the top and just barely misses him, but he stays in the space. Benteke makes another run, and the ball comes right back at him, and he hits it on a full volley, and keeper has to make a save. It wasn't a great hit, but it was a hit. So he's recognizing the space that he needs to be in. I'm really excited about Dado Valenzuela. Jose, I think I cut you off. What were you about to say?
No, it's okay. No, that's fine. No, I mean, I'm not... Sometimes I can be a little bit too harsh on players. I mean, I'm not ready to call this a breakthrough performance because we need to see him against stronger competition. However, that run, you already talked it, was superb for the goal. He was distributing the ball. I mean, he was all over the field. So to me, he put in a great effort. Now, hopefully that will continue. That will give him confidence too, by the way, so that when stronger competition comes around, he can duplicate that, or at least start to see some results from his efforts. His passing needs to improve because according to the stats, he was at 68% completion versus 74 for Orellano and 79 for Anunga. Now, what I don't see in the stats, of course, what kind of passes were they? Because if Anunga was just passing to the guy next to him, well, yeah.
Were they dangerous passes trying to get through the back line that got picked off? Yeah.
But nonetheless, I mean, still, a guy in his position probably should have his stats a little bit higher. Nonetheless, I think he had a very strong performance.
Yeah, and that fits into the greater picture then with what we're talking about. I mean, we were talking about Benteke earlier. If Dado continues to develop, he could be a serious solution for us up top. As a guy that's been developed here. I mean, I know we're tied to a few pieces for the summer transfer window. I know that reinforcements are coming from Evander, right, in the attacking midfield. But if he continues to develop and this actually does turn into the breakout year that Brian thinks he's going to have, and quite frankly, I agree with him, right? He could be a guy that does draw attention from Benteke.
Absolutely.
And you can start opening up play for these other guys up top. And that's where, as you said, you can start forming those relationships, your combination play, and you can start playing this beautiful version of soccer that we love to see, this high-flying offense. So this is a huge opportunity, especially for Cincinnati, to not have to necessarily feel like going into summer window. They have to make a huge splash up front, and they can reinvest in other areas of the squad too. If that'd be big for them and for Chris Albright.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, again, I mentioned it earlier about the bright spots on the field, the things that happen, the players that are doing things that we haven't seen them do yet, and things that are starting to click without key players pulling those strings. So when you add a guy like Evander in there, that's going to distribute the ball, he's going to be a better passer from that central midfield. He's a better free kick specialist, right? Set piece guy. We've got a back line that's getting healthy and they're back out there. But even without those pieces, I think Noonan's done a great job getting people, and I've said this in years past, getting guys experience that maybe we're like, I don't know if he should be out there right now. But then you see a guy like Dado start to develop and put in a performance like he did without depending on a guy like Lucho to get him the ball like last year, without a guy like Evander on the field that he's trying to read, but he's given an opportunity to shine in the way he did. And then if you can put that together with the pieces that they've been missing and get it all together, I'm really excited. And we said this a few weeks ago about Evander. He hasn't been urgent. He hasn't been playing fast with the ball, but that started and then he got hurt. So when he comes back, I anticipate that level of urgency to be back. You pair him with a guy like Oreshano that's hungry for goals, a guy like Benteke that's pressuring the ball and winning it, or at least putting pressure enough so the guys behind him can win the ball and move it forward. I think we're going to see really soon this offense putting more goals in the net than we've seen in quite some time. And if we could get
that offense from 2022 and the defense is starting to look solid, wow, we could be a really tough team to beat.
I'm going to throw a comment from our very own Justin Blair up here. He says, I still believe Dado would be better served going to the USL Championship for a year. And I put it up here because I just want to throw Justin under the bus because I totally disagree. At the beginning of the season, I might have said so, but from what I saw in this one performance, I'm really anticipating a big year for Dado. Maybe not as a starter, but to bring what he brings off the bench with an offense that's starting to click, I think we've got something there. So Fooey on you, Justin Blair. And I don't know why I just said that. Let's thank our sponsor, Beyond Exercise, while we're here, guys. Beyond Exercise is a local physical therapy and fitness business that helps people stay active and injury-free. In fact, they help some of our local MLS Next, and FCC Academy players with their health and performance needs, and I think some of our CST staff as well. Check out their suite of services at gobeyondexercise.com. So always grateful for Beyond Exercise and their support of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. They're great people there. Check them out. If you are following us here at CST, we've got more than this Monday night show. We have, recaps that come out. We've got a great staff of writers. Jacob, I believe you've written some things on our website, game recaps and other things, other features about FC Cincinnati, FC Cincinnati 2. We've got a great team there. Check out our website at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com for some of the great content there. This week's game recap was written by Clifford Adams, who's been on the show a number of times here, and I think he's hanging out in the chat with us tonight. So thanks, Clifford, for a great write-up. He also does his Sunday morning thoughts that are pretty fantastic. Just snapshots of the game, of what he saw the night before. It's all on Patreon. If you're interested, on the free tier of Patreon, you can go there as well. Check out all of our content that we're posting there. You can also join our Patreon, support what we're doing here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. For $5 a month, we'll get you in the Growler Cup to win some fantastic prizes, guessing the scores of the upcoming matches. If you're following us on YouTube, you'll see we've got a couple different playlists there, some new shows beyond our Monday night Cincinnati Soccer Talk show that we're doing currently. Jeff Tebbets has been doing Jersey Swap for a number of years, does a fantastic job as kind of a preview show, talking to a podcaster from the opposing team that's coming up here in the next week. So check out Jersey Swap with our very own Jeff Tebbets. Soccer in Our Area is a show that I believe, Nathan, you've been hosting that one. Yeah? And so fantastic interviews there about soccer in our area. We've got the Art of Soccer, Orange and Blue profiles, all kinds of content there on YouTube and on CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com and on Patreon. So check us out over there. One thing I do want to point out, and I will put this in the chat here in just a moment, we would love some feedback from those of you who listen and watch this particular show, the Monday night live Cincinnati Soccer Talk, or whether you watch it live or listen to it later in the week. We'd love to get some feedback. We've obviously made some changes to the show this year, and we just want to make this the best product we can and bring you what you're looking for as it relates to all things soccer in Cincinnati. So I'll put a link to a listener feedback survey in the chat. If you're listening later in the week, I'll put it in the show notes of the podcast. Wherever you're listening, you can check that out, or you can come back and visit on YouTube. There will be a link for a listener survey there. So we'd love your feedback this week. I think there's 4 or 5 real quick, simple questions for you to answer, to rate some things, and to give your thoughts and feedback on some of our segments and things like that. So please check that out. I'll put it in the chat here in just a moment. I want to move on tonight, guys. Looking ahead to the rest of April, right? We said at the beginning of the month there's 12 points available this month. We got 4 games, and they all look very winnable. We took the first 2. We're on a 3-game winning streak total, but we've won the first 2 here in April. We've got 2 more, traveling to Chicago this weekend and back home at TQL against Sporting Kansas City. These are 2 very different teams that we're matching up against. What are you hoping for? What are you seeing? Are these both winnable games, or is Chicago's looking tough, holding Miami to a 0-0 draw this last week?
I think Chicago is one of those games that if FCC doesn't go in with a tough mentality, it says we have to attack and we have to defend really well, we could wind up losing this game. I watched the Miami game. Yeah, they hung in tough, but there were several opportunities that Chicago had that I don't know how they missed them. I mean, I thought, okay, there's a goal there, and then another one, and another one. They were overrunning Miami's back line. Now, Miami's back line was playing very, very, very high, but still, they created a lot more opportunities. They had a lot more shots on goal, by the way, than Miami. I think Miami had like 2 or 3 shots on goal, something like that. So this is a tough team. I mean, this is a different Chicago from last year. And FCC is going to have to go in there and be careful of their counters, because their counters seem to be incredibly effective on the wings and through the middle. So in terms of Chicago, if we come out, I'm going to say it here, if we come out with a tie, I will feel happy.
Wow. If we come out with the draw, Jose's going to celebrate. Listen, guys, I said at the beginning of the season, and people thought I was crazy, that Chicago was going to be a contender this year. They are they're 3-2-3 right now. They are 8th place in the Eastern Conference. There's not a whole lot of points that separate top from, the top 9 in the Eastern Conference. Last season, just for some context, they were 7-18-9. Yeah. They have half as many wins already this season as they had last year. They have 12 points this season. They had 30 total at the end of last season. So they're almost to the halfway mark of their points total. They are a very, very different team than they were last season. And I think they're going to give us a challenge. However, I will say, if we have Evander back and we have guys that are doing what they're doing that we just talked about, I think we've got a real chance to press Chicago and score some goals on them. Jacob, what do you think?
First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give a lot of credit to Greg Berhalter. That was a hire that I didn't think was going to work. I thought it was going to be kind of a disaster situation where they were just bringing in a guy and it was just kind of not going to work, because that's kind of how it's been with Chicago for a long time now. They are a tough side. I mean, holding Inter Miami to 0 goals is no small feat. I mean, that's a lot of firepower in that offense. It's still a winnable match for me. Like, I still think at the very top of their powers with FC Cincinnati, and really, if Evander is coming back next weekend and he's fit, and he might not even play 90 minutes, but even if you get 45 minutes out of him, you get 60 minutes out of him, they're going to create a lot of chances between him and Benteke and Orshano and, whoever else might be on the pitch. And I do think that is a match that's very winnable, especially if, Hagelin's going to keep playing the way he is and Miles Robinson is going to keep playing the way he is. I mean, you can definitely get 3 points out of that, but, you cannot take them lightly as much as you've been able to over the past couple of seasons.
And to be honest, Chicago's kind of been a thorn in our side at times.
Yeah.
You know, if you remember, they sat Lucho Acosta because they weren't much of a challenge, and they took it to us until the last 15 minutes. Lucho came in and took over the game, right? So we've overlooked Chicago, and I think we're past that point where we can overlook them moving into this season. Kansas City, on the other hand, different story with that team. They've fallen from grace, it seems. They've struggled in years past. This year, they're sitting 14th in the Western Conference out of 15, so they're just there at the bottom. They're 1-6-1 after this last weekend. They are struggling. Is that a game that could be a trap game for FC Cincinnati if they come out of Chicago with 3 points, they come home against a team that's really struggling? Is that a trap game for us, Jose?
I think it is. And I think it is exactly because of what you said. And also, yes, Kansas City is bad right now, but they've had some really tough games. Like in the CCC, they played Miami really tough in the first game. They lost. I mean, eventually they got eliminated, but they played them really tough. Then they tied against Minnesota 3-3. Now, obviously, these are just spot data points. Okay, a result here, a result there. It's not a trend. But I think this is a team that if FCC goes in with a mentality like we did with San Jose last year, by the way, they say, okay, this is a gimme, right? Not a problem. And I don't remember if we tied or we lost that game.
All you remember is the shredded knee, right? And the pitch that was so bad.
Yeah. So we have to be careful. I mean, the team has to be careful. That in fact, regardless of the result in Chicago, they cannot play down to their perceived level. Let's just put it that way. And that's something that this team still concerns me with.
Yeah, but Nathan, we just won a game where we only had the ball for 44% of the time. We didn't have our starters on the field. We've complained that our $16.2 million striker's not putting the ball in the net, and we still won the game. What are your hopes for these next two?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to take 6. I think we're going to take 6. I think it's going to be 2-1 in Chicago. And I think, you know what, both 2-1 score lines. I think you'll see 2-1 in Chicago, 2-1 here at home against Kansas City. Chicago scares me a little bit with me saying that. I might have to eat my words on that. We'll see with the job that Berhalter's done up there. But Kansas City, I know people label this as a trap game. I don't think we're going to have a problem with them. Kansas City is a team that I've seen profiled a little bit over the years where even when they don't have a good team, they play well in tournaments. So I kind of want to throw out those data points a little bit from Open Cup, from Champions Cup, those kind of things. I like Kansas City a lot. I watched a little bit of their match this weekend where they got smoked by Portland at home at Children's Mercy Park.
There is that.
And that doesn't lend me to say that they're going to come into TQL and take points. I will say Chicago, that environment this week might be a little more raucous than usual. They are giving away bucket hats to the first 5,000 fans or something like that. And I know on the East Coast they love their bucket hats, but I know the Cubs and some of the other teams in the region are getting on that trend. So you might have a few more people at Soldier Field than typically.
It's important for guys like me, Nathan, that you get out in the sun and you wear a snapback like this and you get a little sunburn in that little spot. You need something with a little bit more coverage. So shout out to all the bald guys in Chicago getting those bucket hats. How about that?
Hey, it might buy you 2 points. Why not? Yeah, give it a go.
Oh man. No, listen, guys, we're gonna squeak out a win in Chicago. We're gonna come back with 3 points and we are gonna take it to Kansas City. That is my prediction. I say that. Thank you, Jacob. I say that because I will be there with my son's soccer team. We'll be up in, I think, section 222 in the upper deck, just screaming and cheering. And I want to see like 6 goals like we did against Miami.
What's your track record when you come to home games, Brian?
Oh, listen, Jose.
No, I don't know. Really, I just don't know.
No, we won more than we've lost. Okay. When I've been in the stadium. Now, here's the thing. I talked about Gerardo, the ticket guy that was selling me tickets, right? The section that we had like the the visiting team supporter section. We could have gotten group tickets in. I was like, no, I don't want to sit there. So we were in 216, which is close to the Bailey side of midfield.
Mhm. Yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, all right, that'll work. And then he calls me back and he says, we were all over the place in that section. He calls me back about 10 minutes later and says, I actually, another group backed out. We've got room for your whole team and everybody in 222. It's just on the other side of midfield. And I said, I am not superstitious, but every time I've sat in the Bailey or closer to the Bailey, the midfield, Cincinnati has lost. So the fact that he moved us to the other side of midfield gives me high hopes that we're going to take it. FCC is going to take it to Kansas City just for that reason. So it's going to be a big win for us in a couple weeks. Well, time will tell, guys. Time will tell. Hey, we need to wrap up the show here. We're right at 10 o'clock. We've been going for 60 minutes. Thanks for sticking with us. We appreciate you listening, watching, being part of the show with us. But, guys, I want to give you a chance to share your final thoughts. And, Nathan, I want to start with you since I started there at the beginning of the show. Let's start at the end of the show.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, quick couple things. I was really encouraged by this DC game, even though it was a 1-0 kind of slog of a victory. And I'm glad that we have these young players like Flores, for example, that gets the opportunity to learn from guys like Matt Miazga and Robinson and Hagelin. I mean, you're talking about two guys who played for the national team and a veteran like Hagelin. That's a great opportunity for these guys to grow and develop. And you even talk like Dado learning from Benteke and from these other guys there. And kind of playing off that, I'm really looking forward to Evander return to develop these relationships and hopefully be the glue that kind of helps some of this combo play open up and inject some creativity into that final third. Last kind of point of this two-part final thought. The president of FIFA was here in Cincinnati along with some of his team. And he had a lot of complimentary things to say ahead of the Club World Cup coming to TQL in 2025. I'll be there for the Dortmund matches at least, and maybe I'll come for a Bayern match. But they made a comment about returning here in 2031 for the Women's World Cup. So I am praying that bid goes through because I could not imagine how incredible that environment would be for Rose Lavelle to come in and have the opportunity to play games in TQL for the United States in a World Cup here on home soil.
Yeah, that was news we didn't get a chance to get into tonight with the visit from FIFA to Cincinnati. So it's big news there in Cincinnati, and it's hopeful for the future. Nathan, I'll be there for one of the Dortmund matches. We'll have to connect and say hello in the concourse at some point.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Maybe we're sitting together. Who knows? Yeah. Thanks for being on the show tonight. Always good to have you. Glad to have you here. Jose, final thoughts.
Well, real quick on the Club World Cup, I'm going to be to a Bayern game. My wife's coming with me too. I said, you got to see Bayern Munich, one of the top teams in the world. I might go to a Pachuca game, but that's still up in the air. So anyway, three quick things. One, I already said this. The back line is looking really, really good. And if this continues and we get a healthy Obi playing at the level he was in 2022, this team will be formidable in the back line. Second, and I've said this also, team still needs time to gel. It's getting there. We're starting to see it. Now, if only we can keep the players healthy, playing consistently, we could also be a formidable force at the front end. And finally, this team needs to develop that killer instinct. We've got to put teams away. Yes, I know right now with our decimated startup lineup, I get that. But this team has got to say, okay, 1 is not enough, 2, 3, and keep going. Put these games away because oh my God, there's another corner kick. We got 2 minutes left. I mean, it's not sustainable. So those are my thoughts.
Yeah, good thoughts. I just want to respond to the first thing you said about your wife being coming to a Bayern game with you.
Yeah.
I met her in Nashville. She's a lovely person.
Thank you.
And I know you've talked about having to force her to come to games with you at times. And then you post a picture of her across the stadium, not even sitting with you in the pouring rain the other night. So she sounds a bit more diehard than you let on initially.
She's starting to get into it. In fact, it's kind of interesting that when they made a lineup change in Nashville, she said, did they just go to a back four? It's like, Well,
Love it.
okay.
Love it. It took how many years? Don't tell us that, Jose.
A long time.
Jose, thanks for being here. Thanks
thank
again,
you.
especially joining last minute like you did.
Glad to
I
be here.
knew I could count on you to be a watcher of the match and contributor of the show. So thanks again. And Jacob,
Thank you.
first time on the show. Close us out with your final thought, man.
So the one thing that was like the overarching theme that I took away from watching them play in DC is like, you do not have that kind of defensive fortitude without starting to see that the team has gelled. And I know that we've talked about, this has been talked about a lot tonight, and this has been a really big talk over the past couple months to start the season, is like, how long is it going to take for these guys to get it together and like really understand what each one wants to do? The communication on all of that chaos in the back line on Saturday night was unbelievable. There was one time where there was just this ball that was pinging around and it fell to Christian Benteke, and I saw 3 guys converge together and close that shot down, and it was super impressive. And I'm like, you just don't see that. I think early in the season they probably lose that game. They probably lose it 2 or 3-1, and it's ugly. And to watch them hold on with all they got, and for everybody to fight for that 1-0 victory, it was awesome. And so I think, I think it's really starting to come together, which is why I think that the next 2 matches aren't really going to be that much of a problem for them. I think they're really starting to hit their stride, and it's going to be a really fun ride the rest of the season.
Yeah. Great final thought. That's the way to end the show there, Jacob. I think as I close out, my final thoughts on this are, to sum up everything that we've talked about, the partnerships are being developed. The team is nowhere near what we expect them to be. And yet they've won 3 games in a row, 2 of them on the road in pretty hostile territory. In Nashville, that at that point I don't think they had lost a game yet. DC, I think, has only lost 1 at home this season, and Cincinnati's gone into both places, taken the game away, taken all 3 points and brought them home. And we're still griping about the way they're playing and who's scoring and who's not scoring. It's the little things, guys, that I'll be honest. I watched the game the Saturday night at my brother-in-law's house. We were talking. We had some other things going on, so I had it on my computer, and I wasn't listening to the sound. Watching it a second time, like, now I know where Coach gets all this stuff, right? You see the same thing from a different perspective, and that's where I was able to pick out the solid performance Celentano had and the partnership that's developing with Orishano and Dado, at least in this match. It was really, really encouraging to see those little things that I didn't pick up on live or on the first watch. So if you want to dig into really what is happening on the field, watch the game, even though you know the outcome, rewatch it. There's a lot of little things you can pick up. I was excited to do that. I was glad I did in preparation for this show and moving forward. Thanks for joining us here on Cincinnati Soccer Talk. I think we got 6 points coming from the orange and blue in the next 2 weeks. You can mark my words. And if it doesn't happen, forget I told you I was sitting in section 222 that night. Guys, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.